Welcome to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery starring Jerry Springer, along with Gene Galvin and me. I'm Megan Hills. We're recorded live in front of a brilliant studio audience at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky.
My daddy came home.
And here he is, Jerry Springer.
Please, don't get up. Don't get up. Please, please. Oh, just. So anyway, as we're recording this today,
Yes.
We're getting ready for Halloween.
We are.
Okay, so whenever you hear this, I'm going up to Chicago to get my grandson, and we're going to go trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
And we've worked it out because when he, we'll go drive through the neighborhood, and the people have agreed that they'll come out to the limo. He'll roll the window down. And
Unbelievable.
they'll hand the candy through the window.
That's good. That's good for kids. That builds
Yeah,
character.
it
sure does.
It does.
And those will be his memories.
Yes,
His memories will be that sound.
One of these days,
As the window
there's a
goes
lucky woman
down.
out there
Yeah.
that gets, dear Lord, you ruined him.
You'd only
You
have
ruined
to. He'd only have to wear a costume on his arm as he
Well,
reaches
that's
out to
it.
take the
That's-
candy.
Yeah, we just have that.
Yeah. Hey, have you ever? And by the way, momentarily we're going
Yes.
to turn our attention to something that's really kind of special and
Totally
cool,
cool.
and that is an evening with Gurf Morlix. Gurf Morlix from Austin, Texas, and you're going to hear a lot about him if you don't already know about him. But he's kind of an Americana legend, instrumentalist, writer, songwriter, singer, and producer for some pretty major people. So he's got a lot of stories about a lot of stuff having to do with the music industry and a whole career in it. So we're looking forward to that. But I did want to ask you, I wanted to ask you a couple things, Jerry, if I could. Number one.
Is this a test?
And Megan, I know you're going to agree with this because you have some relatives who are older who they don't have perfect hearing anymore.
No.
And Jerry is known for doing these hearing aid jokes. He thinks it's funny to make fun of people who are audio challenged.
Yeah.
I wouldn't make fun of it. It's just, in fact, there's a gentleman.
See?
There's a lovely lady here. No, she just showed me her hearing aid.
Well, there you go. On
And
her
I
behalf,
totally
please, let's don't make fun of people who wear.
Come on,
I
Jerry,
wouldn't
you're
make
better
fun,
than
but
that.
in fact, you're the one. She's the one, right? You'll vouch for it. When she came in just before
Yes.
we started, she said, "This is the finest hearing aid money can buy."
Really?
Oh, my God.
And I said, "Yeah, what kind is it?" And she said, 4 o'clock.
I hate you so much.
Didn't you?
I personally think
Now
that's
you're-
disrespectful.
now you're part of the
That
act.
was so bad.
I think that's disrespectful. I'm going to tell you why I think it's personally disrespectful,
It's
Jerry.
awful. It's
Yes.
just a bad
I have
joke.
two older brothers.
Yes.
God bless them. In their
Yeah.
later years, have trouble hearing. They don't hear as well
I'm not
as they
that-
used to
yeah,
hear.
that's- yeah.
And just the other day, I was walking with my brother Jim and my brother Jerry, and we were over in a neighborhood in Cincinnati called Over the Rhine. We were headed
Yes.
over to a bar called Lachey's.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
we've been
Nick
there.
Lachey and Drew Lachey own it.
Yeah, we've been there.
And we were walking over there, and my one brother turned to the other, and he said, "Windy, isn't it?" And my other brother said, "No, it's Thursday." And then the first brother said, "Me too, let's get a beer." So I'm telling you, this
a joke.
strikes
See?
me.
That is a joke. Good
Yes.
job, Gene.
Oh, well, fine. You didn't laugh when...
Hey, out there, they're saying,
See
good.
his head
Screen
structure?
Door. That's my nickname, by the way. What's your nickname? My nickname's Screen Door, and hers is Happy and Heels.
Happy and
Yeah.
Heels.
So we call her Heels.
Yeah.
No, wait a minute. Actually, that's probably
It's
not
not
good to
good
call you
either?
Heels, is it? No. So I apologize.
We
for
gotta
that.
look at that
We
one
gotta talk
again,
about
don't
that.
we?
HR.
But yeah, HR. What's your nickname?
Money.
Money. Okay, that's fair.
Money. No.
So anyway,
Womp.
No.
speaking of HR,
Yes.
because I'm trying to imagine this. People don't know this. People think you are the owner, let's say, of the Jerry Springer Show. The fact is, and it's
no,
not
no.
embarrassing, you work for a company.
Yes.
You're highly paid. I'd
But I
like
work,
to
you're
know,
an
I work for
employee.
NBC
if you don't
Universal.
mind
Yes.
telling us, it's
Yes.
probably a figure you're generally aware of, but what was your taxable income last year?
Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing.
So
Is this thing
anyway.
on?
The net
Yeah.
number. We're just
Yeah.
looking for the net number.
Yeah.
No, have you ever had to go to, because I know the jobs I've had, because I've
Yes.
worked for the Ludlow Transit Company and other places, and I've had to go.
Finally just
I've
getting
had
a
to
job
go
is
to
on the bus so much.
HR meetings.
We have to, every year I have to go. Not just me. Everyone has to go.
You go into a room with an HR person?
Well,
and they-
actually, she comes into my room.
To his
Yeah,
office.
you make her come to your. You're like Donald Trump.
Yeah,
they got to come to the
yeah.
Springer Tower.
No,
Yeah.
she comes. In fact, I think it's going to be next week. But
Oh
she
my
comes
God, that
into
poor
every year. She's an
woman.
attorney. Well, she's a HR.
Yeah.
And she comes into the office.
Yeah,
and
we have to do
then
that.
she goes through the drill of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
That is a
What
lot.
I don't understand is Megan, God love her, that this is what you do. This is your
This is what I
your
do.
Well, she
real
fires
job.
people.
Yeah, fire people. We
You hire
have
and
the yearly
fire. She's head of HR.
conversations. Yeah.
But imagine, and this is a podcast, so you can't see it. But imagine you go into an HR meeting. You're some guy. You go in HR, and the one who's questioning you
Is Megan.
Is Megan.
Yeah, unbelievable. If they knew what we knew, you know what I'm saying? It'd be like, you
And
got
what
to
do
be
you-
kidding
What
me.
do you say? Because you can't smile at the wrong time. You can't be. You could just gotta stare at her
Yeah.
eyes.
man.
Eyes
She's
up
right
there, man.
Yeah, but normal. Well, actually, with her outside the room, there's someone there that says, "Remember, she has blue eyes."
Blue eyes.
Yeah, but-
So a guy
I-
can answer that question.
And by the way, I myself have had trouble because I've also gone to those meetings,
Yeah.
and I was joking about having a hearing problem of my relatives, but I've got a little bit of that. Had some physical things, issues, and because I remember going the other day to Aglamisi's, an ice cream shop,
Oh, I love Aglamisi's.
over in Oakley,
Yeah.
in a neighborhood in
We're gonna
Cincinnati.
get to you, I
We're
swear.
coming. And I
seen each other.
I go in there, and I pull myself up onto the stool on the counter,
Yeah.
and I finally get up there, and it was quite a struggle. And I said,
a
"I'll
tall
have
stool in
a
there."
banana split," and then she said, "Crushed nuts," and I said, "No, arthritis. I've got it in my back, and my leg, my arms."
Once again, that's a joke.
Yeah. Here's what's not fair. He gets this joke book, and he
Joke
does
book,
prep
no, Jerry.
for the
It's
show.
called-
He
it's
says,
Jerry.
When you
coming
have a
in.
podcast, you prep
Called the
Yeah.
internets.
It's
You
called
know,
the
the internets. Yeah, that's what he-
interwebs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
The
good one.
interweb. Yeah. Hey,
So anyway,
Tonight.
Here for a reason.
we have, you know what, Gurf Morlix from Austin, Texas. But Gurf may be the best way we'd like to start. Sing us a song, please. And then we're going to have some conversation with you, hear
Yeah.
some more. But start us off, please, with a song, would you?
Okay. I grew up just outside of Buffalo, New York, just south of Buffalo, and man, it was like another century back then. It was.
How'd you get out?
I couldn't take it anymore. I just finally had to go. But
No, it's a nice place.
the city of Lackawanna is where I was born. It's just south of Buffalo, and
Yeah.
right on the shore of Lake Erie there. And I grew up like 10 miles south of Lackawanna, and Lackawanna had the Bethlehem steel plant, and that thing was belching out smoke like you would not believe. The air in Lackawanna was orange with black soot particles floating in it, and it stunk. It was horrible, and there was a row of houses right across from the steel plant. They were coated with this orange and black soot. You couldn't tell what color they were. You couldn't tell what color the cars in the driveways were. And those people's lungs were coated with it.
I know, and that's the bad part about it. And this is sheer coincidence. This past weekend, I was in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and they had the Bethlehem Steel Factory
Right.
there, which is now it's a museum.
Yeah.
Because all the jobs are lost. And honestly, you drive there, and all of a sudden you see these huge. I mean, they're like 20 stories high.
they're gigantic.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Honestly, I was blown away by it. But you're right. The negative is those poor people that had to breathe that stuff.
Their lungs were coated with
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
And so,
So you got out.
so I got out, and the steel plant closed down in I think about 1970 or 71, and the
Yeah.
air is fine there, and Buffalo is having a resurgence. They're actually doing really well. Should point that out. But it was really rugged back then, and so I wrote this song, "Dirty Old Buffalo." It's on my new album, and I remember we'd only go into the city like once a year for like a doctor's appointment or something, and my mom would put her white gloves on. And not because she was trying to be stylish, she was afraid to touch anything in that filthy city. So I wrote this song called "Dirty Old Buffalo."
Okay.
We'd pile in the car in our best clothes, kids in the back seat, Dad would drive. We'd breathe in the stink all the way to the city, 15 miles up Route over Father Baker's, over the Skyway, past the steel plant. We'd go once a year. The roads were rugged, the air was orange. Mom was quiet, you could smell her fear. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, smoky memories, they haunt my mind. The South Park Bridge into Lackawanna, looking for kicks without a clue. Couple of kids out of their element, hoping $5 will see them through. Waiting in an alley of blue shadows for a fat man all soaked in sweat. I could see the gun in his waistband as he reached for a cigarette. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, smoky memories, they haunt my mind. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, Rust Belt City on the borderline. The Allman Brothers played at Aliota's, an itty bitty bar on Hurdle Avenue. It was 1970, they were scuffling, living on speed, singing the blues. Seems there was a problem with the money, imagine that, and there was a need to settle the score. Road manager stuck Aliota and left him dying on the barroom floor. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, smoky memories, they haunt my mind. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, Rust Belt City on the borderline. It's not the same, it's all in color. It's not the sepia that I recall. It's all so smooth, but I miss the gritty, fresh paint, the wrecking ball. Well, they'll polish everything with money. It's what they do, this I know, but that's not the city that I remember. But if I scratch the surface, I think the grease will show. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, smoky memories, they haunt my mind. Dirty old Buffalo, dirty old Buffalo, Rust Belt City on the borderline. I miss Buffalo.
Gurf Morlix is as good as advertised, and we're so happy you've come by here. In fact, let's give people some perspective. You're from Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I lived there most of my life.
You just established you grew up in Buffalo, and then you went to Austin. How did that come about, and when did it happen?
Well, I needed to get out of Buffalo. It was too cold for me. I just, I like 95 degrees, and
Yep.
I'm cold at anything under 78. So I had to go somewhere, and I was running out of opportunities there. And I kind of asked around. At one point, I had this friend that I was hanging out with, and he asked Commander Cody. He said, "Where should we go? We want to play country music and rock and roll." Commander Cody said, "Austin or Boston." And
Wow.
Boston was cold, so we went to Austin, just showed up unannounced. And
Now, do you have to get airlifted? Because you have to go through Texas, and that could be difficult. So you were airlifted into Austin? Because it's like an oasis
they
in the
should
middle
build a
of Texas.
bridge,
Yeah.
It's a really special
Kind of like
place.
going through the Autobahn when they had East Germany. To
Yeah.
get to West Berlin, you had to go through.
It's kind of like
Yeah.
that,
So you're from Texas. Well, welcome to our country. It's great to have you here.
I love Austin. It's a great music community, and it's a
it
great
is.
restaurant town.
It's a great city. It really is.
Yeah, it's really great, and it was the best thing I could have done at that point. It was really good.
How old were you when you made that move?
24.
And had you been doing music?
Yeah, I mean, I started playing professionally when I was like 13 or something.
Really?
14, yeah. So
Were there musicians in your family?
No, not really.
So how did that start?
Well, I kind of, from the time I saw Ed Sullivan with Elvis Presley, saw him up there doing that, and I thought, oh, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that I had some musical talent, and then the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan, and the whole
That
world
did it.
changed.
Yeah.
That was a revolution overnight.
Well, Elvis, they couldn't show below the waist.
I know.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And then when the Beatles came, they showed everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
So you went from the Beatles to what you do now?
Yeah, that's where it started. And
Yeah.
but then when I went to Texas, I wanted to play with people who were writing their own songs, and I immediately fell in with some really great songwriters. There's a whole world down there of songwriters that people around the rest of the country don't quite understand sometimes.
Has it always been like that? I mean, I know Austin now has just got that amazing reputation, but it's always been that way?
Yeah,
Kinda hidden.
the music scene in Austin really kind of started in the 60s.
Did it?
It was kind of psychedelia and that stuff. But the songwriting thing kind of took over in the 70s, and that's right when I showed up. And Willie Nelson had just moved there from Nashville. And
Oh, what a
and
cool time to
united
be there.
the hippies and the rednecks. And
In the middle of
it was
Texas.
a great time.
That's fantastic.
You produce, and you've produced Lucinda Williams and Blaze Foley, maybe,
Yeah.
in there as well.
Yeah,
and
the list is really long. I've been doing that for a long time, and I look at the website and I'm kind of flabbergasted, but it's just because I've been doing it so long.
Yep.
How does one become a producer? You obviously have the talent for the writing. It's poetry. But then at what point do you say, I'll produce? I mean, how did you know what to do that first day?
From the time I was in bands, when I was a teenager, I was the guy who knew how to move a microphone around, and if there was a tape recorder, I could figure out how to make it sound as good as
Yeah.
it could, and it was just common sense to me. And then and I started playing with Lucinda Williams, and we were just kind of kicking around. We were in Los Angeles at the time, and playing these gigs, making like $8 a night, and I was trying to figure out a way to quit nicely. And and she called me up one day and she said, "Somebody offered me a record deal. Who can we get to produce?" I said, "Well, I'll do it." And then I just kind of slowly pulled my foot out of my mouth and did
I got to learn how
it.
to do this now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it
you
worked.
did know how to do it.
I did know how to do
you
it,
were
yeah.
very successful at that. Did Wheels on a Gravel Road?
I quit in the middle of making that record. I did the two before then.
Okay, you
and
did
was
two
halfway
bef-
through when I just kind of couldn't take it anymore.
Well, if you don't mind, before you do another song, I'm going to ask you to do a bunch of songs here. Tell us what happened, the quitting in the middle of her the third album that you were going to do.
And isn't it true that all of a sudden this is 60 Minutes?
I know.
Right.
Why is that
Congressional.
bright light swinging into my eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's bring her on in.
Yeah, and here, Lucinda, come on in. Yeah,
Put down that chair.
yeah, right.
Hey, now I feel at home.
There we go.
Thanks.
Well, she's a great songwriter, and I always thought that the songs were worth any kind of stuff that I had to put up with to perform those great songs and make those great records. But I have since found that you don't have to feel bad. You can find people that are really great songwriters that are nice and on an even keel. And so I just stepped away. The scales tipped and I couldn't stay.
Okay,
And it was the best move I ever made after moving to Austin.
You're an artist, so there's some part of you when you produce a record that the artist in you takes over. And yet, is there pressure to, it's got to be commercially viable? So do you ever find yourself compromising because an artist always wants to, this is what I think, this is what I'm believing, this is my message, I want to do it this way. And then the image from those of us who are not in the business is always the producer comes in and says, wait, this is the way it's going to sell. I know they did that with Buddy Holly. Yeah. And I just wonder whether you ever ran into that or that's just for movies.
But I feel like I have a really good take on what people will like to hear, and you have to start with a good song, and then you have to have a performance, you have to have a vocal performance that puts it across, and beyond that you just have to color it properly. But I always just, when I make a record, I'm making a record for the artist and for me, and then hopefully other people like it, but my sensibilities kind of lean towards people liking it, and so it's just worked out.
Hey, do us another song, would you?
Okay. Well, here's another song from the new record.
And by the way, the new record is Eatin at Me.
The new record is called Eatin at Me. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff eating at me.
Yeah. Okay.
This is called Blue Smoke. Those are some fine looking boots. Exotic leather, must be custom made. Fancy stitching, neon colors. I hate to think how much you paid. You bought a vision of yourself in the mirror. You bought fashion, but fashion ain't real. The only parts of the boot that really matter are the sole and the heel. You got your top down, your high beams are on. I can almost hear your midnight moan. But there's blue smoke hanging in the air, and your pistons, they may be blown. We used to have conversations. You tell me everything that was on your mind. I live for your joy and your sorrow, all the passion we could find, blood and truth and unpaved roads. Don't you remember how that feels? Your gas gauge is getting down near empty. Your hands trembling on the wheel. You got your top down, your high beams are on. I can almost hear your midnight moan. But there's blue smoke hanging in the air, and your pistons, they may be blown. You only call me when you're drinking, sloppy emails at 3 a.m. You say you got something, you just gotta tell me, but you leave me hanging again and again. I won't be part of your collection, on display for all your friends to see. I love you and I miss you, even when you're standing next to me. You got your top down, your high beams are on. I can almost hear your midnight moan, but there's blue smoke hanging in the air, and your pistons, I'll bet they're blown. And I hope you make it home.
Oh, you are good. Have you ever written a song that is so personal, the first time you performed it, you actually had trouble getting through it? Like you just went through,
Yeah.
you just broke up with whatever, and then, yeah.
Yeah, well, I had these really good friends in Austin.
Yeah.
And they had the most amazing love affair of all time, and kind of a storybook romance, and they
Yeah.
were more in love than anyone I've ever known. And they were married for 24 years and together a bunch of years longer than that. And then suddenly one day there was an accident, and one of them was gone. And I didn't write the song till maybe 6 months later or something. It was pretty tragic, and the guy was one of my best friends and a very well-known musician. A big music loss, and I wrote this song one night. I just sat down to write a song, and I picked up the guitar, and that song just came flying out. And I recorded it the next day, and then I called him up, and I said, man, I wrote a song for you. I don't think I can sing it for you. And he said, that's good. I don't think I could listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
emailed it to him like a few months later, and I don't know that he listened to it, but he came to one of my gigs like a year later. And I saw him come in, and I was up on stage, and I played it looking right at him, and I wasn't sure I'd get through it, but I got through it, and he got through it.
Oh, God, what a story.
Yeah, it was pretty rough. And then he just died.
Sorry.
So, yeah.
Hey, what's the process of generally of your songs? Where do the songs come from? Obviously, personal feelings, experiences. There's an example, but how do they come about? What's typical pattern for it?
Don't really know. I'm looking for something to trigger something. It could be a phrase or a piece of overheard conversation or something, or just a feeling. There's no real method to it. Once in a while, one of those comes floating by, and it just sort of shows up unannounced, and you just have to reach up and grab it. But those are really rare. And then I've learned. Once you get the idea and you get down, you hammer it into the shape of a song. It's certainly encouraged to edit and work on it. And I got songs that I've been working on for 5 years, and they're not ready yet. And it might just be one line. But that's something that I learned from all the great songwriters I've worked with.
So does it ever become routine for you? Has there ever been when you sit down, you're like, oh, we're doing this again? Or is it always?
No, I mean, I tend to fall into patterns, and I have to
Yeah.
watch out for that.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
I think everybody does.
How
that.
yeah,
often do you
creativity's
write?
sake.
I try to write something every night.
Really?
I stay up late. My filters go down after midnight, and I'm up till 3 or something, and I pick up my guitar and I just peck around and see if anything shows up, and it doesn't always, but I try almost every night.
I don't know if you drink, but if you do, no, actually, this is a serious.
As
but
it
if
happens.
you do, yeah. You're from Austin, so obviously you drink. So anyway, no, but do you ever write? Have you ever been not blasted out, but I mean, just wow, now I'm feeling it.
Or stoned?
It used to be the case, 20, 25 years ago, it was the case that I couldn't come up with anything if I'd had a beer or two.
Yeah.
And then something happened, and now it's kind of this drunken poet thing. If that's when the filters go way down.
Yeah.
When I've had just the right amount, and sometimes I'm getting somewhere, and it's like, oh, okay, one more drink, I'll stay up for one more hour, and because I'm on a roll here. So it definitely happens.
You have an album now that you've come out with. Why don't you talk to us about that and play one of the songs for me?
Yeah, well, it's eating at me, and there's
Yeah.
there's a bunch of stuff eating at me, and
Yeah.
we got a lot of problems and that we're not addressing. It's in our nature.
Yeah.
To not do anything about it until it's almost broken beyond repair.
You and I were talking just before we started this particular podcast, and just the notion came across in the conversation that we have, to a certain extent, the same constituency. In other words, some of your songs that I've listened to, it could be my show put to music. All the craziness, you have people that are outside of the norm. They have, many of them, desperate lives, and we're in different, not that I'm anywhere near your talent, but we're in the entertainment business.
Yeah.
And then when the show's over or your song is over, they still go back to their lives.
Right.
And so I guess the tough question we always have to face is, after we've expressed or shown what these people are doing, what happens to them? And is politics the next step? Is that...
Yeah, I don't know. I know that all I'm interested in is making some sort of personal connection with everybody in the
These
room. That's the
people,
goal, And there's a lot of people out there who
You
aren't
like
getting
the-
what they need.
You like the people you write about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they need to be liked. And
Exactly.
and I mean, it tends to be about either the down and out or the dispossessed or friends of mine that have died. It's kind of I can't write a song about a puppy dog or a sunrise. It's like, just can't do that somehow.
Well, they say art, certainly music, comedy, really comes out of someone's pain. You know, that's-
absolutely.
It's the angry people that become the best comics.
Yeah.
So
I went to a funeral a couple of weeks ago. It was a guy I knew, but he was just an acquaintance, and I felt like I should go. I felt like I knew him well enough to go, but not a great friend. And the funeral was kind of going on. And at one point, I took the funeral director aside and I said, "What's the Wi-Fi password here?" And he said, "Have some respect for the dead." I said,
That's good.
"Is that all lowercase?"
Yeah, he's
Take notes,
good.
Mr. Springer.
Oh, yeah. Okay, is
He
that
gets-
all?
Although if he gets more laughs than we do, it's kind of annoying. But
Yeah,
Gene,
what's that
Gene, you
about?
opened the floodgate for that. So
this is Gurf Morlix doing songs from his latest album, "Eatin' at Me."
Well, let me do a new one here.
Yeah,
This is a brand new song. It came right after I kind of finished the record and sent it off to manufacturer. And this song showed up one night. I up
That's
late at
good.
night and
It's a good way to think of it. A song
picked up-
just showed up.
picked up the guitar and I strummed this chord, and it's a chord that I don't usually strum. It's that chord, and that's a chord that I usually only strum if I'm like making fun of John Denver or somebody and Barry Manilow. I don't know,
Yeah, right.
but I strummed it, and all of a sudden this song came flying out. So I was pretty happy with it. So I'll play you this one. Ain't none of us are noble. We live tawdry little lives. We're animals roaming the land. We might be made of stardust, but that don't make us special. And we gotta do the best we can. It seems to me we get it wrong more than we get it right. We're human beings, after all. It's in our nature to think we own the earth, bound to try and bound to fall. The best of us are barely getting by. The rest of us don't get what we need. All the promises that were made to us, now we know nothing can be guaranteed. We're all riding in the same car, heading for the same place, try to make it through one more day. Some fuel, some water, some luck, and some love, and a little common sense would help us on our way. The best of us are barely getting by. The rest of us, we are the weeds. All the promises that were made to us, now we know nothing can be guaranteed. Ain't none of us are noble. We live tawdry little lives. We're animals roaming the land. We might be made of stardust, but that don't make us special. And we gotta do the best we can. Let's try to do the best we can.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's got, I was sitting here listening to that thinking like sitting in some place in New York City, a jazzy, it's got a kind of a jazzy
Yeah, I don't know how that
vibe
happened, but
to it. It's very cool.
I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, yeah. Gurf Morlix leading us in Irene Goodnight by Leadbelly.
Okay. What a great song.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've been listening to Tales, Tunes, and Tomfoolery, recorded live at the Folk School Coffee Parlor in Ludlow, Kentucky. Thanks to Patrick Kennedy for writing our opening song, and to you for listening. Check out our website at jerryspringer.com.
Now me and my wife have parted. I think I'll take a little stroll downtown. Irene, good night, Irene, good night. Good night, Irene, good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams.
Sometimes I live in the city, and sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I take a great notion to jump in the river and drown.
Irene, good night, Irene. Irene, good night. Good night, Irene. Good night, Irene. I'll see you in my dreams. Stop your rambling. Stop your gambling. Stop staying out so late at night. Go home to your wife and family. Stare at your iPad so bright.